All right, ladies and gentlemen, we come back not just for another episode of the Make Calcutta Relevant Again podcast, but a new season of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. And for this new season, we have a brand new guest who is an absolute madman. That's the only way I can introduce himself. Please welcome Mr. Mudar Patherya.
Hi, thanks for calling me mad. I think it's an amazing compliment to have.
Yes, and I know that. I feel that, real madmen do not shy away from being called mad, and we'll understand the chaos in this, maybe the calm in the chaos as well, as part of what makes Mudar mad and what makes him wake up every morning and do incredible things in this city of joy. If there is a Calcutta lover that I've met in recent times who has absolutely blown me away with their energy, their passion, and absolute dedication to just do good things for this city that we all love and care for so much, it must be this man. So I figured, why not get some of these incredible conversations that we have off screen as well on screen, so that other people can also maybe pick up a thing or two. And what were you saying before? We need 12 mad men to completely transform the city?
Well, revise the estimate, 24.
24. Chalo, 24 mad men for a city of what, 20?
Mad men and
people?
women.
Yes, sir. I apologize. But I think on that note, we should not be apologetic about wanting to do change. Let's start with, on that note, what's the newest project that's been going everywhere right now? Everyone's talking about it. What's been keeping you the busiest?
I'm illuminating Calcutta at night. And illuminating in the sense that I'm lighting up facades. I'm lighting up domes. I'm adopting domes. I'm adopting clocks. I'm adopting the organs that you play in cathedrals. And, generally, আমাদের কলকাতাতে ওরা বলে কি আমাদের কাছে তো টাকা নেই, টাকার অভাব, 2 words, টাকার অভাব. These 2 words have actually held Calcutta back by 50 years. টাকার অভাব. And here I have got a new spin. টাকার অভাব নেই. 3 words. If you know who has the money, what kind of money and for what the money can be spent, টাকার অভাব নেই. অভাব আছে আমাদের কলকাতাতে গল্প করার অভাব, which means that we do not have storytellers. You need a great story. And I think somewhere we've all been conditioned to believe that আমাদের গল্পটা শেষ. গল্প শেষ নয়. So somewhere গল্প যদি থাকে, rational একটা থাকে, টাকার অভাব নেই.
Yeah.
And I think that's what is one is trying to put that together. Haphazardly, randomly, erratically, but I think it's happening.
And for the first time, I feel, nobody is coming up with a begging bowl asking for anybody's mercy. You're coming up from a position of power, from a position of a vision that you truly know is going to transform the city. You'd said that in my office the other day when we met that video, I remember, and you said, I'm on the mission to transform the city of Calcutta. But the way that you're doing it, I wasn't in town for a couple of weeks, and by the time I was back, another 10 buildings had already been illuminated. It doesn't matter who the people are. I mean, and big ups to 18 Ezra Lighting, to Hind Lighting, and a bunch of other people who are doing the final lighting work. But the vision has been set in stone, and where people are coming out of their own accord. They want to be part of a movement like this. They want to be part of something bigger than themselves. And I think that's something that you've done really well. You've been a master storyteller all your life, and you're bringing all of the Avengers that you've that you've created, that you've cultured, and finally you're bringing that out into motion, and it's wonderful to see.
Actually, I've done nothing very special because the Calcutta, the brand, is extremely powerful. Mm-hmm. It's a mother brand.
Yeah.
You don't need to tell Calcutta's story. It's there. And I think there is a yen for people to own the brand, live the brand, and celebrate the brand. I'm only an agent who's making it a reality, who's making it a possibility. You see, what happens is if somebody wants to live the brand, doesn't have money, doesn't have a story, doesn't have a specific vision. I'm not saying I've got all that, but I'm making a beginning. And somewhere people find it, in this country, they find it easier to get on a train than to be the engine driver. It just happens to be my lot that I'm an engine driver, coolie, bathroom cleaner, the guy who gets you your snacks on the train, ticket checker, I'm everything. Is it a bad thing? No, I think it's a wonderful thing because I get to control the brand. I get to control the process.
The narrative.
The way Calcutta needs to be marketed. I would say I have a reasonable understanding of how Calcutta is and Calcutta works and Calcutta thinks. And to be able to market that narrative with a clear end in mind. The end could be monetary, it could be social, it could be emotional, it could be physical. I think one has a reasonable idea. I'm not saying it's, cut in stone and one is a king and one knows exactly. May not be. I'll learn on the way, but I'm making a beginning.
So what is the driver for you? You said that any of these things could be the driver, but for you, when you wake up in the morning, you look yourself in the mirror, what is the one thing that keeps you going?
One of the very influential people in this city asked me the same question. What drives you? This is a very difficult question to answer because, whatever answer you give is actually trying to adapt and put a label on a reality which already exists. I grew up in this city. I made a living in this city. I made a loving in this city. I made, I would say, a very comfortable income in this city. My visibility. So, kahin mere wujud, my existence is defined by the city I've grown up in. And I'm saying it's such a rich city to have been. I mean, this is a city of Derozio. This is the city of Khudiram. This is the city of the great Bose. How can you not be inspired if you lived here? I'm saying I may not have shared the same oxygen as them because they both all lived on different points of time. But in a certain sense, these were 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 or 50, 20 or 100 individuals who liberated Calcutta from the physical definition of a city into a concept. Remember, Calcutta is not a city. It's a concept. It's a concept of a liberal world. It's a concept of a progressive world. It's a concept of a radical world. It's a concept of an inqilabi world. Find some cause to be taken, Calcutta will be among the first. So I believe that Calcutta is not a city, it's a concept. And I believe that my contribution is towards that concept. So what is that concept? What am I doing? One, I'm trying to do something that is possibly not been done on a large scale, in an organized way and in a structured way anywhere in the country. Number two, I'm on a good wicket. The architecture that we have here is remarkable because it's possibly the only city that the British built from scratch. So much of it survives. Number three is that much of this architecture doesn't get viewed at night because there are no lights. Number four, and this is extremely important to understand, that in the last 15 years, there's been a digital revolution in which the cost of LEDs has declined and the lighting awareness has increased. So there's been a crossover. I'm only sitting at the cusp of that crossover and saying, with little money, can I do a lot? 20 years ago, you couldn't do it because in the age of the halogens, it was possible to do a little with a lot. Today, it's possible to do a lot with a little. And I'm saying I'm only sitting at the cusp of history and recognizing, oh my God, I've got a moment that hasn't come for 200 years. But I'm at a point where I can perhaps swing it and transform a reality that hasn't existed for Calcutta in its existence.
I'm so glad that in some bizarre way we got connected, and I've in some way been part of that, whatever started as Kolkata Illumination Society. It could be a bunch of Illuminatis actually sponsoring this, partnering from the back end and pushing the narrative. We just don't know. At some point it was called the Kolkata Restorers, perhaps. Maybe these are the band of, these visionaries who don't want to be seen, who don't want their names to be mentioned.
So I must tell you this, and I'm going to interrupt you here.
Yeah.
That generally, whenever somebody raises funds, প্রথম প্রশ্ন যে থাকে আমাদের নাম কত বড় আসবে আর কোথায় আসবে আর
কত বড় লোগোটা দেওয়া হবে
না সিকোয়েন্সে আসবে. And here we've created a new model that there are 21. As of this moment, there are 21 funders, high net worth individuals and one institution. So effectively, there are 20 individuals and one institution. And not for once have they asked, where will our name go? How will it be communicated? In what sequence? People may have egos. So there are no names. Their identities are concealed by the 3 words, the Kolkata Restorers. That's
beautiful.
it.
Beautiful.
They get no visible mention. There is no commercial outcome to them. If they want to write a Facebook post, they're most welcome to say that we funded. But in my official communication, they do not get a mention, which is breaking the rule. Because whenever you contribute even 200 rupees, you want to know, can I get Section 80G? Of course, they're giving Section 80G benefit as part of the Income Tax Act from my foundation. But apart from that, no visible mention. And quietly, they feel so proud because they're finally saying, I'm going to interrupt my own conversation. In Calcutta, there's a general belief that 0 feet to 20 feet, you can't change anything. But beyond 20 feet is virgin. That space has never been taken. That space in some cases doesn't change. Suddenly, there are two very different worlds existing in Calcutta, 0 to 20 and 20 plus. I've decided to play my game in 20 plus. See, if you don't have a big dream, then you might say that by September we'll be through.
Yeah.
I don't see myself getting through by 2029. 2029 or 2030 should be at 500. And I've worked out a certain costing in my mind. কত টাকা লাগবে? A lot of people are, কত টাকা লাগবে? কোথা থেকে নিয়ে আসবি? So I know it's going to be 10 crores. 10 crores is, and for a lot of people, 10 crores is a lot of money. But just think, 10 crores is not even the cost of an apartment in one of the most visible real estate residential properties in Calcutta. I know that the cost is 14 crores in that particular location.
And we don't have to name it.
We don't have to name it. It's a building built into the atmosphere. But the fact is that it's about 4,500 square feet.
Yeah.
And here I'm talking 500,000 square feet of illuminated space for less than that. And the remarkable thing is, the real estate sector in Calcutta invests no less than 25 to 30,000 crores each year in real estate. And I'm saying for 10 crores, you can transform the city. So, somewhere when you put numbers and you compare them, you realize that, gosh, so much can be achieved with so little. And I think that nobody's ever put a mind on this. Can we get an expander effect? Can we get a hydraulic effect? What is the hydraulic impact? The hydraulic impact is taking something, applying pressure and getting a huge disproportionate outcome. I think this 10 crores over 5 years is possibly the biggest disproportionate outcome in this city in the last 200 years.
And this is why he's a complete madman. The fact that you can also crystallize, and it might be an interesting lesson for people who are watching this, especially who in some way want to contribute meaningfully to whichever organization that they're part of, or a cause that they believe in, or something that they're truly passionate about. A storyteller finds interesting ways of saying the same thing in different ways, using statistics, using numbers, and most importantly, creating understandable, easily digestible bits of knowledge and translating it into their common parlance. Might sound like a complicated sentence, but what I'm trying to say is you just take difficult to comprehend things, large bits of information, and slowly create abstracted bits and make it easy for people to hear. That's exactly what Mudar has been doing. It's a masterclass in storytelling. In fact, for any of you who are interested in public speaking at all, and it's something that if you think it makes you happy, we're going to make a mention of it at the podcast from master storyteller Mudar Patherya. But I see a book right in front of you. Is this a storybook or what is that?
This is a book I did last year.
Yeah.
And it's now acquired a name of itself. It's called the Nonsense Book. There's a term that you abuse a Calcuttan by his relatives or his intelligence. It really doesn't work. But should you mention the word nonsense, there's every chance that the conversation will descend into fisticuffs. Mm-hmm. Because it's like waving a red rag to a bull. Nonsense bole dile.
For the Calcuttan, this is like the biggest insult.
This is the biggest insult. It's like nonsense means you don't make sense out of my existence, my personality, whatever I've said. Nonsense is the ultimate write-off. This is what the book is, and it's caricatured by the great Devashish Dev. And I've just happened to write captions. I've visualized the stuff. I did it for a friend's niece's shadi. And he said, look, we need to give some things to our guests who come from outside the city. What can you give? So I said, we'll sell Calcutta to them, yeah. Let them dance around the streets of Calcutta after they've read the book. And he said very craftily, বইটা আগে দেব না, যদি আগে দিয়ে দিই তো ওরা বেশি চাইবে, আর বইটা লাস্টে দেব যখন আমরা ব্যাগটা দিয়ে আমরা পালিয়ে যাব, ওরা বেশি আমাদের কপি চাইবে না. I retain the copyright of the book. I said, yeah, let me see. So within 3 months, I was reproducing it by changing some paragraphs, and this is the book. I think there's a term in English which is called ROFL, rolling on the floor laughing. This is guaranteed to make you roll on the floor laughing. Calcuttan is nothing if he or she is not insane in some way. Mm-hmm. This book is about insanity. And that's why the term is ki nonsense kotha bolchen. You tell somebody that tumi boka, he'll take it. But ki nonsense kotha bolcho, gone, shesh. Third World War. Do you walk the streets of Calcutta at 6:35 a.m. and get lost in Bau Bazaar? Do you look at a lane called Hidiram Banerjee Street or Okru Datto Street, and you know the difference between the two? So I think Calcutta is a world, and I often say this to my colleagues. Maya Nagari hai Calcutta. Have you ever got lost? And people who say no, we never got lost. And I say, यार तेरी किस्मत क्या है? फूट गई तेरी किस्मत. तो कलकत्ता में कभी गुम नहीं हुआ है. So I think
Mirza Ghalib would have been very disappointed.
So idea is that, do you know that there's a house in North Calcutta, and that is Ramdullah Shortcut Street. Mirza Ghalib actually stayed, the red building.
Exactly.
And I think Calcutta has been for me a very gradual discovery. It's like the peeling of the layers of the onion. And that's exactly what has happened. And remember, Calcutta is a beautiful lady who's wheeled. And she takes off a wheel only to reveal her face to somebody who's besotted with her. It doesn't happen to... वो सबकी किस्मत नहीं है.
Wow.
वो सबकी किस्मत नहीं है. If you actually wooed her, you pursued her, then she lifts one veil after the other.
Another interesting project that Mudar has done, another one of those things that I did not know is something that he was behind. I found out much later. If you've gone around the streets of Calcutta and you've seen these electric boxes with notable personalities from the city who have done incredible things in their lifetimes, that was also this gentleman. So his work, in a lot of way, precedes him. His name is not printed on any of those electric boxes, but they exist as part of the city's, some of the city's newest, what should we call it? Historical evidences of notable figures
Who lived in those neighborhoods.
who've lived in those neighborhoods, and that's what makes it particularly special.
So, the important thing is, the operative word in my life is celebrate. And for me, celebrating Calcutta is like a religion. This city is got a pedigree. And at the end of the day, and this is a word that I'm going to use now in my conversation, which goes very deeply with me. My parents, in fact, my mother's side, travelled from Surat in 1843 by bullock cart and came to Calcutta. So effectively, both my parents are from Gujarat. But I am not from Gujarat. I'm from this. And I often say this. There are two things that I will say. I'll change the vernacular to make it more impactful. Calcutta mera watan hai. If I were to be born again, God, I want to be born here. But this time round, tweak the software a little so I can read Jivananando, and if I can read Tagore and understand. I haven't been able to do it justice in this existence. But I think in some ways there's no lovelier place, no more humane place in the country to have grown up with, no more secular place in this country to have grown up with than this city. Much reviled city, much discarded city, and all those people who actually do that are actually have got a great blue chip on the hands and they shorted it. I don't know the value of that blue chip. I have not only held on to that blue chip, I have bought it every fall. I bought it every rise. In a way, I am not invested in Calcutta. Calcutta is so deeply invested in me that I have no other choice but to invest it back into the city. So my existence is Calcutta. Now, does that sound like an exaggeration? Because a number of people say, but this is not right. I accept. But there are so many great things that are here that if there were more storytellers, if there were more people who could actually weave romances around the city, what a perception of the city would then be. One term that I read 40 years ago ascribed to Samuel Johnson, and I will quote the Latin, nihil tetigit quod non ornavit. I don't know if I pronounced it correctly, but what was written about Samuel Johnson, what Samuel Johnson referred to was, he touched nothing that he did not decorate. So somewhere these words start seeding in your mind. And for me, the reality is that whatever I do must carry the Kolkata mohar, must carry the Kolkata chap. Boss, I'm carrying the inspiration of so many Khudirams and Boses. How can I do something which is substandard? I can't. I'm genetically incapable. And I think the objective is to make people understand what legacy are you carrying on your shoulders. And I think that, for me, has been the biggest driver. Whatever I want to do is, can my city benefit? This is my watan at the end of the day. I'm not going to settle down in another city.
Not at this point. After saying all of this,
I would just say that if this is what you have been and this is what you are and this is what you will be, I only say that, God, don't give me a meaningless existence where I can't contribute enough. But I want to be thoroughly consumed in my endeavor to make this one of the most dramatic and the most remarkable cities of the world. Interestingly, I believe that the money is there, the will is there, even the direction is there. All you now need to do is keep batting. Don't get out.
I wanted to ask you about something else as well. I do remember one of these unfortunate moments in my life, which, because somehow I did not keep in mind, I completely missed out on an occasion to have met you a couple of years ago already, was it? I think, or maybe a year back. And this is something that normally does not happen, but somehow it slipped my mind. And you had mentioned something about you doing something with theatre, which I don't remember, but because I used to do youth theatre, there was a great meeting point also, but I don't really remember what that conversation was. But can you tell us a little bit more about your
I'll get into
endeavor
the
on that?
gist of exactly who I am. I think there's a lot of creative restlessness. And one of the manifestations of the restlessness was that চাইছিলাম কি কলকাতার থিয়েটারের কাজ আমরা করি. I'm not a theatre person. So I can only fund and I can only think of the big idea. So I had seen a facade in North Calcutta, and the moment I went through it, I didn't say, wow, what a facade. I said, what a theatre. Because it was like a rectangle.
And
it was cut off from the main road. The voice travelled well.
Okay.
The backdrop was beautiful. So I said, we can have theatre here. So I reached out to a prominent theatre personality. I said, এখানে যদি আমরা theatre করি কিরকম হবে? She came. We saw the place. And we did theatre there in mid-September. And I think it was one of the, I won't say the only occasion, but one of the early occasions when a heritage facade has been used as a backdrop. So the theatre people went into the building and they spoke the dialogues from there, inside, outside, all across.
Breaking the mold of like what
I think the other thing is,
beautifully.
if you see Calcutta's heritage and you believe that it's only good for coming and saying, "Hey, koto bhalo jayega, ekta ami chobi tuli or selfie tuli," then you miss the opportunity. You know, a prop like that can be used for so many things. It could be used for theatre. It could be used for painting. It could be used for sketching. There's so much that can be done. Bringing guests over, having small events. So I
Should inspire some
multi-activity. Can we do that? So, চেষ্টা করলাম. Theatre was a success. I said কি গুরু এখানে যদি 70-75 লোক যদি চলে আসে আমরা succeed করব. We had 110 all standing and we were virtually sold out in a sweltering September. I am certain that there's a possibility that Calcutta's theatre, I can't name the halls, but needs to get out of the halls, needs to mutate a bit, needs to deconstruct, a very structured approach, and needs to do things in smaller places, intimate places, theatre, heritage spaces. অনেক কিছু করা যায়. It would be a tragedy কি আমরা শিবকৃষ্ণ বাড়িতে আমরা যদি থিয়েটার না করি আর একটা বড় 600 সিটারের করি, বিকজ শিবকৃষ্ণ বাড়ি নিয়ার the Vivekanand Road, Kali Krishna Tagore Street, was created around theatre. The entire insides have been fashioned like a theatre opera. So, the idea is that we don't even know. I mean, অনেকবার বলি, গুরু কলকাতা কি আছে তোমরা নিজেই জানো না. Reason is we do not step out and walk the streets of the Calcutta. We don't get lost in the city.
From your perspective of being the Renaissance man, again, going back to that thinking about things differently, thinking about how art evolves, how spaces evolve, how our art and spaces, work together to build a beautiful production. How can we ensure longevity? How can we ensure that it passes the test of time?
So the immediate answer to that is, if we stopped obsessing with the next Instagram reel, because an Instagram reel has got a short memory, if we stopped obsessing about that and treat everything as a slow movement, I think we'll be better mentally equipped. Because I think in today's world, the cause and effect is very clearly identified. এটা করেছি, এটা হবে. Normally, আজকে যা আপনি করবেন সেটা ইফেক্ট অ্যান্ড একো 2 বছর পর আসবে. এটা পসিবল. Number 2,
instant validation
you need to get out of.
That is,
Number 2, sometimes it may be a good idea to do something which is good because it is for the sake of the goodness and not
as a means to an end.
Everybody thinks that this is going to be the next big movement and now suddenly we'll have 2 million likes. It won't happen and it may not happen. Number 2 is that I think this is where Calcutta can definitely improve. We need an ecosystem of reasonable risk takers. When we did the theatre, we knew that Murphy was always around the corner somewhere. And if Murphy struck, there would be problems. Things will also malfunction. কিন্তু somewhere we need to be a community of risk takers. আমি দেখেছি কলকাতাতে অনেক kinds of risk takers. Somebody is willing to take a risk on an event. Somebody is willing to take a risk on a performer. Somebody is willing to take a risk on a script. Financial risk takers to come. And I often say this, that you ask me why have we done all these things. The one thing that is very clear in my mind is that I'm a financial underwriter. Before, when I hear a prospect or hear a concept,
I've already
underwritten it in my mind.
Doesn't matter if
এত টাকা লাগবে 48,350 rupees, ওরা করতে পারবে না, ওরা দিতে পারবে না, আমি দিয়ে দিচ্ছি, মাথায় বলে দিয়েছি আমার নিজের. So I keep telling me, yeah, okay, it's on, knowing fully well that it's mentally underwritten. But remember that if the underwriter has to pick up the tab each time, there will be a finite limit to his underwriting. So what does the underwriter do? What do? I will underwrite their amount and then farm it out to 7 or 8 people. I've taken the initial risk. So my risk is the 48,300. Once I've separated it out and given it out to 7, 8 people, then the risk is zero. Then I am right and well positioned to go on to my next project. So, I'm perpetually chasing another bigger mountain. And I think even after the illumination of the facades is done, people say, now what will you do? Will you be unemployed? No. Mentally, I know that if I've done 10 crores of funding, I'm good for that again. So financial underwriting has now become elastic. Earlier on, I would take a project of 1 lakh or a couple of lakhs. Now I can actually take 5 years, 10 crores because I've already done it once. Then after having underwritten that, I will try and get my potential investors back again. If they come and pick up the tab, I'm moving on to a breakup project. So somewhere it's a continuum where I have taken a risk, fulfilled it, funded myself, moved on to the next project, then underwritten that, been terrified as to how I'm going to meet the underwriting commitment. But the moment I do that, I'm right to go to the next. That's why I think there's a link and a sequence. Eta korle, eta shesh kore, go on to the next one. Tarpore, go on to the next one. So in a lot of ways, you will always be in motion and you will always be in business for the city.
So much to digest, I think. And I do not know how, after we're shooting this at the end of a fairly busy day, I do not know how much more capacity I have to keep being a sponge, but I will leave you with a last question and hopefully an answer for that for our audiences. What's next? When you say about a bigger project, are you already projecting yourself 5 years from now, thinking about what's the thing that will get you excited? Do you have an inkling? Are you hoping to figure it out in the next few months, years, or have you not started?
I think the mind is extremely quick in seeing opportunities. The Illumination project has virtually opened my eyes as to how you can transform an urban reality. And I'm already on to my next project. It's already been seeded in the mind. And I think the direction is urban regeneration. We've seen urban degeneration. Now, the D gets another stroke at the end, and that is urban regeneration. So the Illumination project is one component. I thought that the illumination was a world in itself. Sure, it is. But now the way I'm seeing the subject of urban regeneration, the illumination is only a component of the urban regeneration space. And I think the next game, which I think Calcutta can show the other cities of the country how to do it. And I know it sounds absolutely audacious and absolutely bold to say that Calcutta can show the rest of the country the way. But I think there is a concept cooking in my mind that if that urban regeneration space, project, endeavor takes off, I think we've got something to show the country. It will happen. It could happen.
Any famous last words for the future Mudar Patheryas of Calcutta?
We are listening to the sound of an invisible drummer. And the invisible drummer, in this case, happens to be a line by Muhammad Iqbal, which I keep telling myself. And the line in Urdu is very simple. It's just one line, taken from a great poem called Bachcho Ki Dua. Yun hi ho mere dam se. Mere dam se means through my endeavor. Yun hi ho mere dam se, mere watan ki zinat. What a powerful line. I could weep on this. And I keep coming back to the one word which I say is so important for me, my watan. My watan is not Afghanistan. My watan is not Pakistan. My watan is not Bangladesh. It's not even Canada and it's not even USA. Well, I'm saying something blasphemous. India is a large term. It's Calcutta, boss. There's a lovely line, if I should die, think only this of me, that there's some corner of a foreign land which is forever England. I'll remove the word England and say Calcutta.
That's ladies and gentlemen, Mudar Patherya for you, this absolute madman. What an incredible conversation filled with so many pertinent insights about this city that we live in, that we breathe the air of, and hopefully we get to work together on rebuilding this city.
And of course, making Calcutta relevant again.
And making Calcutta relevant again, all in our own ways. But, thank you for being such a great brand ambassador for the city. Thank you for being such an inspiration for us who love this city. And
It's an honor to be an ambassador for a brand like this.
what a brand to be an
What
ambassador.
a brand to be in. You're sharing the space with the Khudirams and the bosses of the world.
Absolutely.
It's
Absolutely.
a goosebump moment.
And I hope that we come back again, hopefully with another person who has the same kind of energy and love for the city that you share. But until then, we will take a little bit of a break and we come back to you with the next episode of Make Calcutta Relevant Again, the podcast. Thank you very much.
Thanks.